Good evening, everyone. This is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. I'm coming in early, one day early today. I'm actually doing my Friday folds on a Thursday because I have class tomorrow night in my home. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Wendy. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So I'm going to show you first off. I'm using the All is Bright designer paper tonight. I'm going to use several of these patterns. And what I am creating, I'm going to show you a few samples and then I'll explain how I did them. So we're doing the diagonal cut card fold. As you can see, it opens this way. And then this one, whoops, let me move that out. There's my little notes. So you can see that these are opening in opposite directions. Now, how I did these cards, I actually started, let's start with this one. I started out with 2 pieces of designer paper. So this would be one piece, and I scored diagonally. And then this one was my second piece. So these were actually scored in the same direction. And you need 2 pieces because when you have these two, they don't go together. You have to have opposite patterns to be able to have 2 patterns on your card. So that's the first sample. The second one is kind of the same layout, but with this one, the flip side of this is these 2 pieces. So you have to kind of selectively use patterns that are going to go well together. As you can see, when I flipped these 2, I got these 2, and those worked well together, even though it's more of a clean and simple card. And because there's really nothing busy going on, I added some of the Santa's Workshop enamel shapes. And then I added a bow just to dress it up a little bit. So I'm going to show you first how I glue everything in place. And then I'm going to show you how to cut one. So I'm actually going to be making 3 cards with you tonight. Now this is the leftover piece from this one, actually this way. So with one 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, you get 2 cards. And then what I'm doing with this one, I've already cut my designer paper. This was 4 inches by 5 1/4, scored right diagonally in the center. And what I wanted on this card, I did not want to use 2 patterns. Because you can see when I flip this over, you can't use this. It makes like a kite. It looks like a kite. So what I'm doing with this card, I'm actually using both pieces. Let me fold my card over. So both of the designer papers are going to be the same. And once I get this one glued down, I'm going to show you guys how to cut this shape. So this goes like that. So this is just to show you that it's okay to use the same pattern on both flaps. I just wanted to show you the difference. So even though the flap opens like this, these actually continue on to each other. I'm going to glue the little label shape. Now let me show you where I get all of these shapes I'm using tonight. That's this one. That comes from the Stitched Labels Framelits dies. There's quite a large, there's 10 pieces in this set. And then for the center, I'm using the number 2 die from the Stitched Circles, Stitch Layering Circles. Now, because we want this to be able to flip open, we can only glue half of this down. So I'm just going to add glue to half. And I've got several sentiments here. Let me see, I'm going to use, these are light bulbs. So I thought, may your Christmas be holly, jolly, and bright. Bright to go with the light bulbs. Let me bring in the real red ink. Now the green I'm using is Call Me Clover, and the gray is the Gray Granite. There's my sentiment. So I'm kind of doing things backwards tonight. I'm showing you how I glued my card down, and then once this one is done, I'm going to actually show you from the beginning how to cut. And that's going to go right in the center. And then I always, I'm going to show you, whenever I have a card that has white on the inside, I always add another layer there. It just looks neater, and to me it's a lot stronger of a base. So I would add another layer of white here. I didn't cut one to use. Okay, so this is just to show you using the same designer paper on both flaps. Now, the next two cards, I'm going to bring my pieces in. Again, these are 5 1/4 by 5. Now, what I've done in this case, I want these to be opposite colors, opposite patterns. So I scored this one from left to right and this one from right to left, because I want to be able to take this one and flip it over, and the same with this one. So if you were to try to use this, the stocking would be upside down. So you also have to take that into consideration when you're cutting your diagonal cut. So now let me bring in my paper trimmer so I can show you how to cut this card. I'm actually going to start out with the scoring tool. I'm going to score at 4 1/4 all the way across. And I'm going to flip and score at 5 1/2. So what we now have are 4 sections. Now comes in the paper trimmer. The only thing you have to watch about the paper trimmer, you can't cut the whole length. The blade doesn't reach. So the most important thing, I'm going to try to turn this so you guys can see the whole thing. So line up the corner right on the track and the same on the other end. And then you're going to try to cut as much as possible. Let me make sure it's all lined up. And then you should see the center of your cardstock. So I need to move that just a tad. Now I'm going to cut. So the only part that doesn't cut all the way, I've got this all the way down, is up here. So I just bring in my paper snips and I finish that off. So you don't waste any cardstock when doing this. You actually have 2 cards ready to go. So now let me bring my designer paper in. I'm going to fold down both flaps. And let me start out by gluing a piece of the Whisper White on the inside. And the white measures 5 1/4 by 4. Okay, now let me bring all 4 of these in. Now this is not going in the right direction, so I have to use these 2 pieces. So again, if you guys have a lot of designer paper on hand, this is a good way to use up your paper. Remember our little hashtag, love it, chop it. Here's piece number 2. And this is Call Me Clover is the color in the designer paper. So Call Me Clover over Call Me Clover. Next up, I'm going to bring some white. And it doesn't matter which flap you glue the label shape to, as long as it's only on one flap so you can flip it open. So I'm going to glue that right there. And let's see, on this one I'm going to use Wishing You a Season Merry Christmas, full of peace, wonder, and life. And this is the real red. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I need to actually stamp that on Whisper White. On the other card, I didn't layer it, but on this one, I want to layer because I want the red to show up a lot more. So I'm using the, I can't remember the size of this. This is the Starburst punch. Now I'm going to bring Stamping Dimensionals in. And I'm going to glue that on the gray granite layer, centered. And then we're going to glue that to the label. Now you could also add some bling like I did on this card. I added some bling on the background and a bow. But just for tonight, just to show you what I'm doing with the different patterns, that's all I'm going to do to this one. Now, because I flipped all of my panels over, I have 2 more pieces for 2 more cards. And this time, this one is going to fold diagonally. Now, what's great about this is, let's say you're folding this and your papers don't match up, you can actually flip them the other way around and then they'll match up, I think. Yeah, because this one goes this way. And then if you do it that way, it'll go the opposite way. So you can't mess up. So again, let me start out by gluing my center panel. So really there's no waste when you're doing this because you're using both sides of the card base and then you're using both sides of the designer paper. Just a great way to use up your supplies. Oh no, I glued the wrong one. I just messed that up. I wasn't paying attention. I still get the wrong one. I had my card upside down. So now this one has glue all over it. We no longer sell the adhesive remover, but that's what I'm going to do to remove all of the glue. Since I put it on the wrong side, we used to sell this and we don't anymore, but I know you can get it in any of the craft stores. And it takes off all of the snail. It just peels it right off. So just a second here while I fix my error. That's what happens when you do a video live. You guys get to watch. I mean, I know you guys have commented on that before. You like it when I show you how to fix a boo-boo. Okay, I've just got one more strip to remove. And I know that everybody's done this before. I've seen people do it in my classes. Okay, my glue is all gone. Now I can add it to the right side. But now I have glue all over my fingers. Okay, I've got one little piece right here. Okay, so see how I have the green at the top, the green at the bottom, and then the stocking in the opposite direction. And the flaps are flipping in a different direction also. So now I'm going to glue my label shape. And let's try another sentiment. This one just says Christmas greetings. And where's my white? And again, I'm going to bring in the Starburst punch. Glue that with Stamping Dimensionals. Oh, Wendy, you did the same thing with the glue. That's because I was talking and I wasn't paying attention. I do that quite often. I always think I'm good at multitasking, but obviously I'm not. Not when it comes to card making anyway. Okay, here comes label number 2. Okay, so this is what happens when you cut your designer paper in different angles. This one, I just used one sheet, cut at an angle, and used the same side. And then on this one, I cut 2 sheets and then flipped over to side number 2. And then I have this one that I haven't finished yet that I showed you at the beginning. So this one would have been, let me see, 2 cut at the same angle and just flipped over to side number 2. So you can see how quick these cards are to create if you're mass producing Christmas cards. This is a great card to mass produce because literally there's no waste. So that's it for tonight, guys. That was a quick one. Oh, I said I'd show you where I got all my sentiments. Oh, this was the dies. The Alpine Adventure is where I have the Christmas greetings. Farmhouse Christmas for this circular one. And then Peaceful Noel for the May Your Christmas Be Holly Jolly and Bright. That goes good with the little light bulbs. So thanks for joining me tonight, everyone, for a quick card fold. And I will be back on Sunday with a Sunday share for you. So I hope to see you then at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks so much for stopping in tonight to visit with me. Have a good week.